There we go. Now we're on it. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday evening Screencast Video Coaching call for April 28, 2020. My name's Lon Naylor. I'll be your host tonight. It's good to see everybody. Let's see here. Let's pile into our agenda real quick. As some of you may know, today is a kind of a day for screencasters in general. Camtasia, our favorite screencasting tool, has released a new version. And Camtasia 2020 has shipped as of today. So that's kind of the scoop. I'm going to give a bit of a feature set overview. It will not be possible in any way, shape, or form for me to show you everything. This is going to be an ongoing kind of a thing with just, what's the technical term, a buttload of in-depth tutorials and looking at the new features and stuff. A lot of that has to do with the feature set itself, but I'm going to give you an overview of it so you can get a flavor of what's happening and what's kind of possible. To drill down a little bit more on that, I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite features. We'll see if we can highlight some of that. I'll tell you why I like them, why I love them, what they're for, and what they do in general. Again, we're not going to dive too deep into anything. We'd be here for a couple of days. I always get asked the question, is it worth the upgrade? So we'll take a look at my criteria for that, and of course Q&A. As we go through this, if you do have questions, go ahead and pop them in the question box, and unless it's related to exactly what I'm talking about at the time, we'll probably circle around back to those time permitting. So let's kind of take a quick look here at Camtasia 2020 overall. Developers in general will usually come out with new versions, and they try to create basically kind of a value proposition. So what is it about 2020 that is a value to us as a new version? And their basic tagline is less setup, more production. I don't know about the less setup part, but there's probably do focus on more production. So my basic take on what the value proposition of Camtasia 2020 boils down to sort of 3 things. One is it's very focused on being able to create content faster and with greater consistency. Okay, and we'll touch on those as we look at some of the features. Accelerating your workflow. And if you use Camtasia now, and sometimes you kind of struggle with getting things done in an effective, what I'll call workflow, there are some nice features that help us kind of kick that up a notch, kind of lends to the creation speed aspect of it. A faster workflow is a good thing. And also a big piece of it has to do with being able to share creativity. And we'll take a look at what some of those functions are as well. Here's kind of the overall scoop. This is what I have discerned as rather the feature set of Camtasia 2020 in terms of new features. As you can see, it is a fairly sizable amount of stuff for a particular upgrade. And I just kind of wanted to put this up here to highlight the fact that there are quite a few of major kinds of things going on. In fact, I'm going to jump over to the Windows version history. And let me put a link to this in the chat box because this is kind of a handy thing. If you want to know if something is in a particular version or if it supports a certain thing or not, this is just a good link to bookmark. So I'll just make a quick point here. And this kind of goes back to the is it worth the upgrade thing. Let's take a quick look here. So the version history today has Camtasia 2020. And let's just scroll down a little bit. And in the version history, what we'll generally see is anytime it says added, that means it, for the most part, usually it means that it is a new feature. So when we look at this list, you can count all of this stuff And as you can see, it is pretty massive. There is a lot of addeds here. So let me just contrast that real quick. If we jump down to Camtasia 2019, which is down here, right, there have been 10 minor updates throughout the year that Camtasia 2019 has basically been alive. And as we look through this list, what you'll see is a lot of fixed. For the most part, there have been no real new features added, and even ones that say they were added are really just fixes to stuff that should have happened in the first place. So if we scroll down and scroll down to when 2019 released, notice the difference here. Added, 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 added. So we had like, I don't know, 6, maybe 7 things that were added as features in 2019, and Camtasia 2020 just literally dwarfs that by like miles, right? So that's kind of what this list is about. If you haven't checked out 2020 yet, there is a special update page that you can go to. I'll paste that in the chat box for you. That's my affiliate link, by the way. And it will give some details and stuff there. You can, of course, download the free watermark trial. Check it out for 30 days. It runs just fine side by side with whatever version of Camtasia you have. Fred asks, what build or version of the OS must you be on to install 2020? And that is a good question, Fred. You must be on Windows 10. As part of my trials and tribulations of working with the beta for, since late July of last year, I had to upgrade my beloved Windows 7 to Windows 10. I'm real happy about that, but anyhow. But that is good when I have that in some of the notes that we'll touch on a little bit later too. So let's press onwards here a little bit. So from the first kind of category or value proposition, they have now what are called templates. And templates are one of the things that can really help make creation faster. Media placeholders are another aspect, and then replaceable media. So I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to jump over to 2020, and we'll see if we can't just kind of take a look at a couple of those different kinds of features. I'll jump back to templates in just a little bit, but I'm going to go over here and kind of show you one of the nicer pieces that I think are in the update here, and that is something called a placeholder. And a placeholder is basically just a container into which you can drag and drop any kind of media. It can be an image, it can be a video clip, it could be an audio clip. Doesn't really matter. The main thrust and focus here is that this is something that you can put into a project as you're kind of laying it out, and then just replace at a later time. And it's kind of what templates are built upon. So if we kind of look at this little example here, this might be a template that I start to create, right? So let's say in general, when I create a project, maybe I want an intro clip. And you could pull this kind of thing just out of the library, out of your intros, or even the ones that come with the Camtasia libraries. So as you build something and you want to make it so that you can easily change the content later, right? That's where placeholders and templates kind of come into play. So placeholders, you can actually add them really easily. You just put your playhead where you want a placeholder to be, and you press the letter P on your keyboard. And that's going to create this asset called a placeholder. And then the kind of nice juice here is that you can name the placeholders. So you could say, insert camera video here, right? And you can also provide even more in-depth instructions or notes for others to follow. 1920 by 1080 HD video clips go in here, right? So you can kind of lay things out, and they're just like any other assets, really. You can stack them, you can animate them, you can add effects to them. You can do pretty much anything you can do with, again, any kind of media. But when the time comes to maybe start to modify this, I can go in and I can say, let's go to my library. So it says insert camera video here. Let's go find a piece of camera video. Grab some stock footage. Here's a video clip. Let's just add us a little puppy. So when you go in, you'll notice that I can pull it down into the placeholder here and see how it turns green. That means that I can drag and replace content. And when you do that, depending upon the kind of media that you're dragging in, you can do what's called a ripple replace, which means if my video is longer than my placeholder or shorter than my placeholder, it will ripple everything else on the timeline and make things snap in place. You can replace from the start, meaning that if my video clip is longer than the placeholder, it will, just keep the beginning part and trim off everything else. Or you can replace with clip speed. Okay, so I'm just going to do a ripple replace, and then at that point I can do any resizing or stuff like that I want. So placeholders are kind of the way that templates will give us a good way to get things started and whatnot. Let me go ahead and save this. And while that's happening, Robert says, so if you were making a series of related videos, you could use placeholders to give different videos a consistent look and feel, right? And that's exactly what you could do. So what I would do if I wanted to save this as a template, let me try something here. I haven't tried to do it with a selection, and maybe I put an outro here and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, so you would do this with a whole project. I got a whole bunch of other junk here, so I won't save this as a template. But what you can do is once you lay your stuff out like this, and get all your placeholders and all that good stuff put together, you go to File and Save Project as Template, right? And if you want to then create a new project from a template, there's this option here, New Project from Template. So let's take a quick look at that. And these are all the templates that I have. Some of these come from, you download more templates. They've put up a few freebies in the TechSmith Asset site, right? So that's kind of nice. Let's grab one and we'll be able to kind of show you some more of the drag and drop replace and stuff like that. So let's create a new project from template. All right. And this is kind of what it looks like. Now this is kind of a nice complex template. And I'll just show the entire timeline. But what you'll notice is that there are, again, these placeholders, right? And on top of the placeholders, like I say, you can put anything that you would normally do. So this right here is just a call out, or a call out group. And it's got the quick properties, so it's easy to modify. You just change your text, so maybe I do something like, hi, I'm Maggie. Okay, and then to modify this project, actually I'll let this roll for a second. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it over the webinar, but we'll give it a shot. So it's very nice, right? There's a lot of good stuff here that we could use. And again, there's just all kinds of cool and interesting things happening. But for the most part, the nice part about the template aspect here is that I don't really care about all this stuff very much, other than, oh, I click on this group. Here's all the properties that I can change. And you can add themes and change colors and all that good stuff. But it's just really easy to go in and, boom, 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 boom. And then the cherry part, the part that makes it really sweet, is that this is placeholder for media. So let's go to the library. Let's just grab some pictures. We could use video clips and all that good stuff, but let's just try. Let's go up here and let's grab some Maggie pictures. So let's grab this one. We drag it, and you got to hover in the placeholder and then drop it. Okay, and then my images here are 720. The project's 1080, so there we go. And basically that's all done. Okay, and you kind of just repeat that process. So here, we'll grab and drop. I'll click on Maggie, resizer, position, all that good stuff. And that's kind of how the placeholders and templates work. And he says, I'm curious about the training template. Does it allow you to insert custom intros and outros for specific modules or lessons? Yeah, that's a good question. So another part of the replaceable media stuff is that, let's try this. We'll see how it goes. Let's just go to let's just use one of the regular Camtasia intros. Let's try it. Let's grab this and let's drag it down to the group here. And if I let go, again, I get a ripple replace option, and I think I'll go ahead and choose that one. And for this, we'll probably, pull it back in. And now, basically, that entire sequence has changed. So, it's going to kind of depend on the content that you want to put in there. That was probably a bad example, but you can replace groups the same way. So you drag and drop a new group, and you can replace all kinds of media. You can replace stuff inside a group if you expand it. It's just a lot better way to replace media than what we used to have to do, which was could right-click on something and say Update Media, but that was kind of ugly. And I'm not going to get into the technical details of why. Placeholders are much more versatile and much better at doing that. Okay, so that's kind of the scoop with, for the most part, replaceable media. Let's try one other thing here. So let's say I'm working on my stuff here, and I'll just try a real simple example here. Let's go back to my library, grab another picture of Maggie, and this is called a ripple replace. So what I can do is you can grab a piece of media either from your library or from the media bin, and you can now drag it. You can hover between two pieces of media, boom, and drop stuff in, and it will ripple everything else down. Before, what you had to do was, I'm going to make a hole, and I got to move stuff, and that was ugly. Now you can just drag and drop stuff in between two clips. So replaceable media, templates, media placeholders, kind of neat. Robert says, prediction, people will start selling fancy Camtasia templates. Why, yes they will, Robert. I'm not going to get into it today, but there is kind of a point of contention for me in that respect. You'll notice that these groups right here, Well, they have the quick properties. And I'll just mention this right now to get it out of the way. Sadly, in this release, currently, we can still not create assets with quick properties. So yeah, you can use them, you can reuse them, but as you might know, this is a group, and it was created very specifically by the TechSmith people who have the secret magic tool that lets you do this, and they create it as a group, and you can put it in a library and stuff like that. But if I ungroup this, boom, all that yummy goodness goes away. And what do I have to do? I have to go in. I have to, double click the text and stuff like that. So that's still a feature that I'm waiting for, crying for. Kind of crying on that one. Oh, by the way, let's just finish that thought. So let's say I go in and I modify this template. Maybe I change colors of stuff, or, again, like the question was asked, change the intro or logos or stuff like that. Well, once I'm done with this, I can go and I can save project as template. And I can give it a name, Lon's template, and say OK. And then when I go to new project from template, then here we go. I have Lon's template. Boom. Instant reusable. Okay. Let's see. The other thing that's kind of nice about templates has to do with the sharing creativity thing I mentioned. When you save this as a template, you can give somebody else the template file. So Camtasia 2020 has a bunch of new file formats. Some of them we're familiar with, the Camtasia recorder file, the Camtasia project file, Camtasia zip files, library zip files. Well, there's a new one called Cam template. So when I save this as a template, I can go ahead and share that file with other people. And everything in the project here is contained in the template. So you don't have to export your media bin or create a zip file of the project. You just save it as a template, share the template. When someone else opens that template, they're going to see all of this stuff. They're going to see everything in the media bin, right? So it's just a really easy way to go ahead and share stuff out. Let's see. Effect presets are kind of nice. Let's go right here and I'll show you an example. Actually, let's just do something simple. Let's do an annotation and let's drop a text call out. Add to timeline. Let's make this big. So one of the things I kind of like to do with text is I like to use some behaviors, right? So let's go to behaviors and let's add us a pulsing behavior to this text callout. Right? No big deal, but here's kind of the thing, is that behaviors, of course, have an in, a during, and an out behavior. The pulsing kind of has a nice entrance for the in. Ooh, nice, it grows. But then what happens? Can anyone else tell me? The extremely irritating default of it's going to sit there and pulsate. Well, I hate this. I never, ever, ever use this. Ever. Yet, in 2019 and earlier, every time I add a pulsating behavior, I got to go in, I got to turn this off, and maybe, I want it to go out by object, so I can do all of this configuration of a specific kind of thing, right? And then what you see is that we have a little plus button here. So if I click this, we have the ability to add these things called presets. So now I got this thing configured and jammed up the way I want. I picked the font, all that good stuff. Colors, whatever, anything you want. And I go to Add Preset, and let's say this is pulsating plane, right? I'm going to say OK. Notice what happened was that it created a user behavior called pulsating plane. And now if I apply this as a regular behavior to, any other object, and drop it down here on this guy, it's going to have the same properties that I set up as the behavior. In fact, what I can do is, since I never ever use this thing, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to delete it. Right? So now, never again will I have to go in and change that stupid parameter. And if you delete some of the default ones and you want them back, you can just restore all the defaults. Okay, so that's kind of nice. Consequently, one of the other things that I might want to do at this point is, if this is something I want to use a lot, I love this feature. I just click the little star here, and over here you'll notice that now we have this thing called favorites. And favorites are all of my things that I have tagged as effects that I use all the time. And you can kind of drill down into various categories and stuff. But for example, here I've pre-configured one. Let me just show you what it is. This is just a rectangle shape. But one of the things I like to do is use an animation to kind of draw it. So all I did was I put, a radial wipe transition on both ends of this shape. And the effect is kind of nice. Watch what happens. So it draws itself. And then it goes away. So what I did was I just added this as a preset and then tagged it with the little star. So now, instead of having to build this every time I want to put, a box that draws itself, I can just grab it and drop it. Okay, and then at that point, do whatever else I want to. But I find myself using certain callouts a lot, and it's especially nice with callouts. Here is the regular circle. Well, if you go to annotations and the shapes, and you got all this crud here, all these duplicates and all that good stuff, and there is really only one true circle shape. I don't want to have to go here and make sure I'm on all, right, and all that good stuff. Boom, favorites, circle me, right there, bam. You can also do it with other effects. Like my favorite transition is the whip spin. And then let's see, what else? One of my favorite animation effects is the restore animation. And for all of our replays, for example, when I drop my Camtasia recording file on the timeline, I always add effects to my cursor. So I pre-configured all of my cursor effects, and now I can just kind of apply them right out of favorites. So I really kind of like those presets and favorites. Let's see. Here's kind of a little one that I like. So I showed you my box that draws itself, right? That's kind of nice. So it's kind of an animation, but what if I don't want it to animate in that direction, right? So what you can do now with transitions, I'll click on this transition. You notice you can reverse it. So I kind of like that. And that comes in handy in a lot of cases. When you use transitions as animations, or even in just some of the regular transitions between clips. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see, what else do we have here? Let me jump back to the slides for a second. Enhanced media bin. I'll touch on that real quick. So if we go to the media bin, and this is just like one of those power user productivity things. You can sort by type, duration, size, dimensions, date added, and you can also do those by descending. Let's see if we do it by type. And I actually find sorting them by type is kind of handy, because sometimes, you don't, is that an image or is it a video? Well, now I know, right? And I can drill down and fold them up. And, if you get a lot of stuff in your media bin, this is just a bit more handy. And then you can also change the view to a bunch of different things, right? So you can have it listed, a little handier, a little more versatile. Packages, custom templates, kind of talked about that in the sense that if you create a video project and save it as a template, all you have to do is share your template with your folks. And you can also do what are called packages and shareable themes. So let's see if I can demo this. Well, let me start with the themes. So let's go to manage themes. So themes, of course, I'm not a big fan personally, but I'm not going to get into all that. You can create themes, which are basically colors, fonts, and things like that for callouts, right? And you can designate logos and all that good stuff. So you can create yourself a custom theme. And then one of the problems with older versions is, yeah, themes are great, but what if you want to share it company-wide? Well, you couldn't. No, you can. Now you just export the theme, and other folks, hand that again a new file type, camtheme.camthemes, and others can import them and have, big libraries of themes for consistency. So that's one thing that you can do. You can also create something called a package. So remember, we saved a template, which was a project with all the stuff, right, that someone else could open. But now you can also, it's file export. So it's export a package. Okay, and a package differs from just saving a template in that you can not only share the template with folks, but I can also share themes that I have. So here's my, what is it, Camtasia Mastery theme. I can share my library. You can share shortcuts. Remember those favorites that I created, and then also any custom tool presets that I have. So a package can contain all kinds of stuff. And if you are in maybe a corporate setting, or you want to provide a template that people can really do some damage with, you can include a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so corporations probably like this kind of thing. That's just all kind of handy dandy, good and ready, right? Let's see here. How are we doing time-wise? So shareable themes, packages. There are some things that are for the Mac only. They're getting pretty close to parity anymore. And I haven't gone through and done a comprehensive list because I don't use Macs. Track reordering is a little different on the Mac, and you can also do things called solo tracks. I don't think I'm going to get into that too much. My favorite features for Camtasia 2020, kind of going from top as a countdown, templates. I think those are going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to creating a whole bunch. In fact, I have a whole bunch in the works, and I'll be sharing some of those with you folks. I like the favorites and the presets just because if you work with Camtasia a lot, you will constantly find yourself having to, jerry rig everything from the word go, pretty much. Unless you reconfigure it, maybe save it in your library. Yeah, you can get around some of that, but for the quick and dirty, favorites and presets just make moving around and applying stuff a bunch easier. I definitely like replaceable media and placeholders just because, again, I can create once and then duplicate many times without as much of the work. If you ever opened up a blank Camtasia project and then, okay, well, what should I do first? Almost kind of thing. Even just having blank placeholders scattered around can be kind of productivity stuff. And, I have some hacks and tips for that we'll dive into at future things. Track mats are the other favorite feature that I have. I'm not really going to be able to get into it too much, so let me just maybe tease you with something here. Okay, track mats are something that we'll have to go into some nice detail at a later time because it takes a little bit to wrap your head around what a track mat is. So I'm not really going to get into the technical details much. So let me just start with a simple example here. Let's take a logo image. Okay, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to Control C, Control V. Now I got me two logos on top of each other. Right? So let's take the bottom logo, and I'm just going to kind of move it down. On the top logo here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what's called a track mat. And this is, again, an advanced feature. In fact, they buried it in a little option here. So I'm just going to kind of show you what it does, and then just a couple of quick cool things you can do. So normally this little eyeball here disables the track, right? If you right click on it now, we have context options here, and I'm going to create what's called an alpha mat. Okay, when I do that, a mat you can think of as something that covers something else up, except for what I don't want it to cover up. Right? So right now with this enabled, and here's its location, it's covering everything up. So what happens is all I have to do here is on the bottom layer, I'm going to move this up, and as it comes into the boundaries of the mat itself, well, since I told it to use this object here as the mat, then it becomes revealed. So let's just add us a little animation here. So let's go back to where we were. Put this down here. Let's add an animation and kind of come up with just a cool little logo reveal. So we'll put an animation in, and as it comes into the mat, there we go. Quick and easy, easy peasy, sweet little logo reveal. Okay, let's see what else do we got here. Let's do this. I'm going to turn that track mat off. What should we do? Let's go to the library. Let's go to my video clips, and let's add Ron to the timeline. There he is. There's our guy. One of the things we get asked a lot is, can you create a talking head version of Ron in a circle? I mean, normally we could crop this down and have a square head, but lots of other programs let you create, a little talking head circle. So let's just kind of wing that. Let's go to my favorites. Here's that circle. I'm going to add that to the timeline. Let's bring it up here. Let's hold the shift key. Let's put it over Ron's talking head, right? And let's apply an alpha matte to this. So again, an alpha matte will cover the track that is underneath it. And I'll do a better job of explaining this at some point in the near future. Let's just see what happens. Let's go to the circle, and now I have Ron as a talking head because the shape is the mask. The circle is the mask. It is a cutout of what is underneath. Okay, and you can actually do this a couple ways. I can also invert that. So now we have this kind of deal going on. But let's just kind of finish this thought here. I'm going to move right to here. I'm going to split this track. And then I'm going to group these two. And the nice thing about track mattes, let's set this to none, is that when you group them, the matte, and I can tell it's a matte because it has this treatment on the track, you know, this little color thing. So now what we can do is, here's Ron, he's talking. Thank you
so much for checking out my Camtasia mastery course.
Now I want to jump to the talking head, and we can put a piece of media underneath that. Let's see, let's go to the library. Let's just add a, how about a nice sunset video below it. Okay, so Ron starts out full screen talking, and then he goes to talking head, and of course we can animate a group, can't we? So let's just drop a keyframe. Let's make Ron a little smaller. Let's put Ron down in the corner, and you know, kind of have him shrink in there. Right? So this doesn't have to be like a circle. It could basically be any shape. I haven't tried this. Let's just see if we can change it to an octagon. There you go. So we can do masks with all kinds of things. You can also get all kinds of assets out there. Let me see here. Let's go to mattes. I'm just going to show you like one other trick. There are all kinds of assets out there that you can get that typically before were only usable in programs like After Effects or Adobe Premiere that understand this kind of blending modes, for lack of a better term. So this is something called an ink bleed, and really it's just a black and white kind of video clip. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to try it. I don't know if I'm really set up for this. Let's try it. Let's grab this kind of cool thing and let's drop this on the timeline. So here I have Maggie, and then this is just a video clip. Okay, and what we're going to try to do here is let's enable this as a track matte. Let's do one called Luminosity and see what happens. So now I can kind of get these really cool transition effects. Let's stretch this out a little bit, and I'll just kind of step through this. So what a luminosity matte does is it just subtracts color or brightness, and since it was a black and white object, right, I can just have it mask out. And you can do some pretty weird and goofy things. And again, invert it. and then it works in the opposite way. I'll be showing you lots of other cool things that you can do. Here's a last sample for you. This is called a stencil lower third. Right, so again, this has some mats in it. Let's see. Let's kind of wrap it up here so we don't get too carried away. So track mats are awesome. Surprisingly to a lot of folks, my number one feature in 2020 is actually probably what a lot of people will think the most stupid one, and it is a detachable timeline. Okay, so how many of you do this kind of thing? In fact, let's, ungroup some stuff here. Let's ungroup this. Let's copy, paste it, paste it, paste it. Anybody end up doing this kind of thing in a project? Right? It doesn't take long to start to get lots of tracks. Okay, and I literally hate this. You can only go up so far and then you are hosed. You are scrolling up and down and back and forth, and it's just a nightmare. So the feature that I've been clamoring for years, literally years, is I can now right click here and I can detach my timeline. When I do that, I can move it to another monitor, or I can do this. And now I have timeline galore. I can move stuff around, I can pick and choose, I can dine and dash if I want here, and it's all just good. Again, this is probably most handy if you have multiple monitors, but it is probably my favorite feature. I'll just close that, boom, and everything snaps back into place. Detachable timeline. All right, let's jump on this real quick. I'm going to give my quick and dirty on is it worth the upgrade? And the answer to that would be yes, no, or maybe. So let's start off with the yeses here. Yes, if we're talking about comparing the value of an upgrade to, say, 2018 or 2019, I would say yeah, because we saw the feature list. It's just a ton. This is a good upgrade, whereas quite frankly, I was not that thrilled or overwhelmed with 2018 or 2019 for that matter, as far as bang for your buck, what you got. So compared to those two, yeah, this is a good upgrade. If you are a Camtasia 9 holdout because, why? You didn't think 2018 or 2019 was worth it? Well, now, if you upgrade to 2020, you're going to get all the features in 2018, 2019, and 2020. So if you are a Camtasia 9 holdout, then except for the maybe category that we'll get to in a minute, I would say if you were waiting to update, now is a good time to do that. Power users. If you live in Camtasia and you saw some of the things with track mats and templates and all the little productivity enhancements, yeah, it's a good one. I like it. Corporate users, or if you do work for clients where you need to be consistent with things like themes and branding and all that good stuff, there are lots of those features then that can provide consistency, especially for, again, corporate users that need branding, or if you're doing that kind of thing for clients. It's a very, very good update. And even for beginners, if you're pretty much new to Camtasia, or maybe you want to get better, but you want to do it in a little easier way. You want it to be easier to get better. You can use things like templates and replaceable media. So beginners will probably have a lot to like in it as well. If you want flexible customization and presets, and again, that kind of goes to the power user aspect. So I like those various features, and there's enough of them that it makes it pretty worthwhile. In the maybe to no category, if you are a very casual user, if you use Camtasia once a year or you just make the occasional video and you already have Camtasia and you know how to use it, Are the extra features and stuff like that going to be useful for you, would be your question to ask yourself. Maybe, you want to use the templates and stuff like that. Or maybe if you're a beginner and that's why you're a very casual user, maybe upgrading would provide you with some of those tools and templates and things to do more, right? But that's a decision. It depends on how much you use Camtasia, just like any other software, really. If you never use the thing, then upgrading is kind of superfluous. If you have Camtasia 8 or earlier, is this upgrade for you? It could be. If you're in this category, you're probably in this category, very casual users. And the point that I'll make here is that if you're going to upgrade from Camtasia 8 or earlier, this is going to be this is going to screw with your mind because the interfaces are completely different, right? Camtasia 9 in 2020 just has more stuff. But, hey, if you're still limping along or if you still love and use Camtasia 8, then upgrading is going to be a learning curve that you might struggle with for months, kind of thing. You need Windows 10. 2020 project files are not backward compatible, so you can't create a 2020 template file or project file or anything really and give it to somebody and open it up in 2019. First time you run, you need to have internet access to reach the activation server. For me, launching 2020 is slow, not that big a deal, and some of the help functions aren't available yet. Let's see here, Mr. Hogue, I'm gonna make you a organizer if you want to pipe in at all, because you're awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's see, do I have another slide here? The assets, there are some new templates and themes. I think that's it. What do you think? What do you think, Ron?
Well, when I first saw Detachable Timeline, I kind of made fun of it. I thought it was a very silly thing. And then I tried it and I liked it. And then I saw that it's one of your top things. And I'm starting to like it more and more. Of course, like you said, with a detachable or with the multiple monitors, it makes a lot more sense. But really, those track mats are really top notch. That's the kind of stuff that you can do in the most advanced nonlinear editors, right? I'm really happy that TechSmith has upped the game. And like you've said, the updates that they made for 2018 and 2019, those were so incremental, they were hardly worth a major update in my opinion, and I'm guessing probably yours. But this was definitely a major update. I'm very happy with it. I would say the only thing I'm not happy about is the fact that I have to upgrade my computer now because I have a decent machine, but it moves slow for me too. So I already talked to my wife about planting the seed that we're going to have to get a new computer for me to work on Camtasia.
Aw. Especially on the load. The thing takes forever to load, it seems like, but I don't know. Snagit's the same way. I don't know what they're doing under the covers. I'm not aware of any, like with Camtasia 9 or I think even 2018, they did some major stuff like performance-wise under the covers.
But one of the things that I've noticed with some of my larger projects is as I continue to work on that larger project, it's using more and more RAM on my machine. And then it gets to the point where even with my 8 gigs, it's maxed out. And so then it starts writing a lot to the hard disk. So for me, what I've found is after I have a larger project up for probably around 45 minutes to an hour, I have to stop it, close all of Camtasia, and reopen it to kind of free up the memory.
Yep, I'm kind of looking at that too. A project of this size in 2019 would be nowhere near this amount of memory usage, I don't think. And it starts to suck memory. And like you say, I've noticed it gets worse over time. It kind of did that in earlier versions too, but anyhow. We'll dive more into those kinds of things and see if we can find the scoop, and we'll ask the developers what's going on. Fred asks, Ron, when will you have the mastery course for 2020?
I've already started working on that as of today. So I have 7 or 8 lessons already completed. And so there should be updates probably. I might have it updated within a week or so if things go as planned.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Let's see. What else? Yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for now. Like you, Ron, I've been working on a bunch of stuff for it too. I'm sure we'll be getting together and maybe comparing some notes and things like that. That'll be fun, I think.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any kind of closing questions? I know it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, but you know, when they hook it up to a hydrant with this release, that's what you get. You know, instead of turning on the faucet, you get a fire hose. Okay, I think that'll do it. I guess we'll kind of call it an evening. And with that, thanks, Ron, for your input. And I will talk to everyone later. I'm going to have a lot more on this stuff. So we'll trim this down and see if we can get it out real quick. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Everybody stay well, be safe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.